John Big Red Johnson had been on edge for months. He'd heard the whispers, rumors, theories, stories shared in hushed tones at rallies and online forums. The liberals, he was told, were planning something big. They weren't content with winning elections, dismantling traditions, or silencing voices on social media. No, they wanted total control. They were coming for everything. The media would call it paranoia, but John knew better. It wasn't paranoia if it was real. He'd seen the signs. The quiet town of Freeland, nestled in the heart of Red State territory, had been John's home for most of his life. Lately, though, strange things were happening. New neighbors moved in, people who didn't belong, liberals, he was sure of it. They dressed differently, drove electric cars, and their kids were homeschooled by what John could only describe as woke mothers with rainbow-colored hair. They claimed to be peaceful, but John suspected they were part of something bigger. John sat on his front porch one hot October evening, a cold beer in hand, scanning the horizon. The air smelled of burnt leaves and gasoline, and the sky was a sickly shade of orange as the sun sank lower. He couldn't shake the feeling that something bad was coming, something far worse than higher taxes or defunding the police. His phone buzzed. Another message from his buddy, Earl. Earl, they're in the schools now. My cousin's kid was taught about gender fluidity in kindergarten. Can you believe that? It's happening, man. John gritted his teeth. It was all part of the plan. The liberals were trying to indoctrinate children. First, it was teaching kids to accept everyone's truth. Next, it'd be making them identify as something unnatural, something not in God's plan. Earl's messages fueled the fire inside him. He knew what they were doing. He leaned forward, opened up his favorite conspiracy forum, and scanned the latest posts. They were talking about the same thing. How the left had infiltrated the public school system to turn kids into mindless drones. The liberals weren't just preaching tolerance, they were brainwashing them, stripping away their identities. He clicked on a thread titled, "Globalists Want to Turn Us into Machines." As he read, his blood turned cold. The post explained how liberal elites, backed by big tech and globalist corporations, were working on transhumanism. The vaccines, the 5G towers, the push for cashless society, it all made sense now. It wasn't about progress. It was about control. The elites wanted to upload people's minds into a digital world, where they could be manipulated and surveilled 24/7. And anyone who didn't comply, they'd simply be erased. John stood up, pacing. He remembered the news story from last week about a young girl who disappeared after posting a video criticizing a major tech company. She was outspoken, a proud conservative. No trace of her since. He knew now that she hadn't run away. She'd been deleted. The sound of tires crunching gravel snapped him back to the present. He squinted into the dusk as a dark van pulled up near the end of his driveway. His pulse quickened. A van with no markings, no plates. It looked like one of those government vans they used in the protests, the ones that snatched people off the streets without a word. John went inside and grabbed his shotgun. Suddenly, there was a loud knock on the door. He swung the barrel toward it, heart racing. No one in town knocked this late. Cautiously, he peeked through the window. It was his neighbor, Tim, one of the new folks who'd moved in last spring. John had always felt uneasy about Tim. He was too quiet, too polite, and drove a Tesla. John cracked the door open, keeping the shotgun out of sight. "What's up, Tim?" Tim smiled nervously, adjusting his round, wire-rimmed glasses. "Hey, John. Sorry to bother you so late, but have you noticed anything strange around here? I think there's someone watching the neighborhood." John tensed. Was Tim playing dumb, or was this part of some deeper trick? Yeah, John replied cautiously. I've seen a few things. Why? Well, Tim hesitated, lowering his voice. It's just, we've been noticing more drones lately. I'm sure you've seen them too. John's skin prickled. Drones. He'd heard the rumors. The liberals were using them to spy on patriots, keeping tabs on those who resisted. They disguised them as weather instruments or even birds, but they were everywhere, silently watching. Tim continued. I think they've marked us. John. Both of us. Why would they mark you? John narrowed his eyes. Tim glanced over his shoulder nervously. I wasn't always a liberal, you know. I moved here to escape them. To warn people. John's grip tightened on the shotgun, suspicion gnawing at him. But there was something in Tim's eyes, a genuine fear that mirrored his own. They're coming for people like us, Tim whispered. Patriots. They call it re-education, but we know it's something worse. John felt a shiver run down his spine. His mind raced through every theory, every message board post. Re-education camps. FEMA camps? He had heard it all. The liberals wanted to re-educate conservatives, strip them of their values, erase their minds, and turn them into mindless slaves of the state. Suddenly, headlights appeared at the end of the street. The van, still idling, was joined by two black SUVs. Panic shot through John's veins. They're here, Tim said, his voice trembling. We need to leave. Now. John's instincts screamed at him to run, to fight, to do anything but stay. He grabbed his keys, threw open the door, and sprinted for his truck. Tim was already in his Tesla, motioning for John to follow. But as John slid behind the wheel, the engine sputtered and died. He tried again. Nothing. The truck was dead. 5G kill switch, Tim yelled. They've disabled the cars. Get in with me. John hesitated for a split second before bolting out of the truck and into the passenger seat of Tim's Tesla. The electric car sped away just as the SUVs reached his house. As they tore down the road, John felt a cold realization settle over him. The liberals were coming, just as he'd feared. But it wasn't just about power or politics. This was bigger, deeper. They wanted to erase everything he believed in, everything that made him who he was. But then Tim did something unexpected. He swerved hard, driving off the road and into the woods. The Tesla bounced wildly, and John was slammed against the seatbelt. Tim, what the hell are you doing? Tim's face, calm just moments before, had twisted into a cruel grin. I'm taking you to the others, John. You didn't think we were just going to let you run, did you? John's blood froze. He reached for the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. The windows were sealed, locked. He was trapped. They've already got you, John, Tim sneered. You're too late to stop it. You were never going to stop it. As the car slowed to a halt, a clearing appeared ahead. Figures stood in the shadows, waiting. And that's when John saw them. People he knew, people he trusted. Earl, his friends, his neighbors. All standing in line, heads down, faces blank. Something had taken them. You see, Tim whispered, there's no conspiracy. The last thing John heard before darkness swallowed him was the sound of static filling the air. The hum of a new world coming to life. Hey friend, if you enjoy my content, please like and follow. Thank you for your support.